Hello, my name is Mary Kane. It's very nice to be here. I'm a PhD researcher in ethnology and folklore at the University of Aberdeen in Scotland. Through interviews, I've been looking at how grandmothers of geographically separated families are passing on their family history. To introduce ethnography and folklore through the lens of popular culture, I'd like to quote Gary Steingart. "We are small individuals kicked ass first onto the stage of history, given terrible lines and worse costumes. But what remains interesting are the few things we cling to, the self-expression of grieving and desire, and the inability to define love." In this paper, I would like to make my attempt to define the particular type of love that grandmothers manifest in their relationships with close family. I'll begin with how grandmothers are portrayed in popular culture. At the beginning of my adult life, in the 1970s, there were cruel, stereotypical mother-in-law jokes, and mothers-in-law are often grandmothers. They were told by male comedians, and I hardly like to allow these jokes air, but for the sake of academic veracity, here are two examples. How many mother-in-laws does it take to change a light bulb? She just holds it and waits for the world to revolve around her. My mother-in-law's an angel. You're lucky, mine's still alive. These jokes reflected an image of the grandmother at that time who lived nearby and was considered to be interfering and overfamiliar. Over the past decade or so, we've been offered a different comedic slant on the grandmother. A romanticized, resourceful grandmother who has unrestrained love for her grandchildren. There's also been a proliferation of children's books that portray grandma as a superhuman being, adventuring and wise, with a moralistic, pivotal role in the young child's experience. How has this cultural change occurred? If we look at the second half of the 20th century after the Second World War in the Anglo countries, more access to education, jobs, and ease of travel meant that families moved away for work. Couples created their own nuclear families and no longer referred to the older generation. Our rules, they said, not your rules. I was part of that generation. I was a 60s teenager. My friends and I went to the first discos. We wore a miniskirt, loved the Beatles. We went to college, moved some distance from our homes, married and had families. We looked forward to an active, pensioned old age, being grandparents. Then for some of us, the luck ran out. The next generation also took advantage of the opportunities offered, and they moved even further away. My children moved to New Zealand and America, where they live permanently. While visiting them over the past 20 years, I have built up contacts with grandmothers in the same situation. They have become my contributor cohort. Barbara Kirschenblatt Gimlet describes a cohort such as mine in Authoring Lives. She quotes Tamara Haravan and says, "We are not templates, but we share the experience of being in the same life cycle during a particular historical epoch." My contributors have been through the earlier life stages of daughter, wife, and mother, and I am in a position to be active as they are to travel. However, our family interactions are mostly from a distance, so we're only able to visit occasionally. So I ask, has the way we are able to demonstrate our love changed? What is love? In simple terms, it's defined as strong, positive affection and commitment. The ancient Greeks named different types of love. In Aristotle's Ethics, he describes, oh, have we grandmothers changed? In the different kinds of love are eros, the romantic love, philia, the love of friends, ludus, the playful flirtatious love, and hedonism, the pursuit of pleasure. All of these are nice, and I'm sure none of my cohort are against them. But I suggest it's the following three kinds of love that are more linked to the grandmother's experience with relation to family. Storge, the protective kinship-based love you are likely to experience with family members. Agape, from which we get the word agape. It's the unconditional love, an empathetic love. It involves caring for and loving others without expecting anything in return. Eudaimonia, the selfless love. Eudaimonia is a strange word, and it might need unpicking. The Greek prefix eu, meaning good, as in euphoria, and daemon, meaning the true self. In the Northern Light stories by Philip Pullman, Lyra and the other characters have animal demons who are inseparable. How could I measure how grandmothers experience these kinds of love? I decided to create a questionnaire for my contributors in the form of a wooden puzzle. I asked them to choose 4 family quotes, asking, which of the following most resonates with you? The quotes I asked them to choose from were these. Helping family can be a thankless task, but it's always worth it. I always try hard to go with the flow. I am resigned to being happy with the crumbs that fall from the family table. I am proud of many things, but nothing beats grandma. Skype once a week is a lifesaver, but I really miss the cuddles. To be honest, I prefer my friends to my family. Family is supposed to be a safe haven, but it is there I find the deepest heartache. Why did I do it? What did it get me? Give 'em love. Where does it get me? My family is the source of my greatest joy. To make a quick record of the results, I took an iPad snap of each contributor's results. I asked them to leave their arms in the picture for authenticity. The wrinkles, the jewelry, the rheumatism, the freckles and sunspots all speak of active lives and are portraits in themselves. The most popular, it turned out, by far, was by Maya Angelou, "My family is the source of my greatest joy." This conforms to the agape love, the unconditional love, the nurturing love we do not expect a return from. Was closely followed by helping that family can be a thankless task, but it's always worth it. The selfless love of eudaimonia. So the 2 loves that come out as favorites were the one we expect no thanks and the one where we work very hard. Another runner-up was the family is supposed to be a safe haven, but it is there I find the deepest heartache. Why would it be that we willingly continue with difficult family situations, endure painful times, when it would be easier and cheaper to find hedonistic, self-indulgent pleasure elsewhere? What is this selfless eudaimonia anyway? Referring back to Aristotle, he says it has 6 aspects: self-discovery, perceived developments of one's best potential, a sense of purpose, investment, intense involvement, and enjoyment. When I study the transcriptions of my interviews, all 6 of these match how my contributors show their feelings about their family. They report and demonstrate intense, difficult at times family involvement that gives them reward and purpose to their life. What conflict can there be with our generation of active, willing grandmothers? In Grandparenting Practices Around the World by Verpi Timonen, a grandmother describes the 3 knots. When staying with her family, she feels she is not parent, but has to assume the parental role, not servant, but does some menial work, not a guest because of all the work she does. So how do my contributors continue with this eudaimonia and agape love, the intense involvement, building investment in family and sense of purpose to develop their best potential, when they are living for most of the time at a distance? From my data, I see they actively keep in touch. Even though we were the analog generation, we have adapted to technology. And we were again lucky that Skype appeared around the same time as our grandchildren. We WhatsApp, watch TikTok videos, and get up early to evening news from grandchildren in Australia. We hand make things for family. We hand make things for family. Here's Nuala Leslie, who makes birthday cards for her grandchildren with pictures of herself and her husband to remind them what they look like. Here's Kathy Sharman. Here's Jenny Johns, who sews a memory of a tapestry of family life. Here's Kathy Sharman, who is appliquing love onto a quilt. We are inventive with our family history. This is me with a storybook and behind me a memory box for a family holiday with a grandchild. Norma has made a fairy world waiting for her grandchildren to visit. We try and make visits happy occasions. We hold the family knowledge. Jenny Moss knows about her ancestors. And we display family things. We make shrine-like arrangements to our families, usually in a public area of our home, and we show off the successes. To summarize, I see that my group of contributing grandmothers are operating with love, storge, the instinctual affection, agape, the unconditional love, and eudaimonia, the selfless love, as they attempt to bridge the gap between themselves and their distant family. I ask the further question, is this effort benefiting their families? Research has been building that suggests young adults entering the adult world need a good sense of personal identity and knowledge of an oscillating family history. This means that although family ups are good, recovery from the setbacks in life provide a positive example to follow. The psychologist Lynn Rees from Otago University observes that quite young children can build on family information if they are given it early in their lives. Marshall Duke from Emory University says the grandmother is the most trusted storyteller in the family, and it is she who has the most access to the young children and quiet storytelling moments. He also says they are the kin keepers of the family. This is borne out in my interviews. It's the grandmother, not the grandfather, who shows particular commitment to arranging the socializing at a distance. Do the grandfathers remember to write, shop, choose, wrap, post, Zoom? Do they take a fair share of the arrangements and interactions? In my interviews, I heard surprise that I might even ask. Only 2 grandfathers out of 28 were reported to take an equal share, even though they are committed grandparents in other ways. To summarize, if a foundation of family history and story is shown to support a better sense of self, and grandmothers hold the family knowledge, then the loves of storge, agape, and eudaimonia that drive these grandmothers to maintain contact in challenging conditions will have wide-reaching implications. So the starting point of erotic love may get our families up and running, but during the long race of love, the other forms of love keep us going. Whilst these may try to trip us grandmothers up, They also offer unexpected joy on the journey to the finishing post. Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.